Hey, what's up? This is episode 3. We're going to be reading Thus Spoke Zarathustra, the next part. Why am I making this series? I'm not necessarily making it for anyone else. I am making this for me. I want to read this book, Thus Spake Zarathustra. I've already read it. This is my third time reading it. I think it's a good work. I want to deconstruct it. I want to put it back together. I want to outline it. I want to analyze it. I want to read through it. I want to share my thoughts. I want to share what I've read with Carl Jung and his seminars. And then I want to connect Nietzsche's ideas with all of his other books, Beyond Good and Evil, Twilight of the Idols, etc. I think Nietzsche was a really good writer. And even though I don't agree with him, I want to analyze him in depth. So that's why I'm creating this series and I'm doing it publicly. Some people take like diary entries every day. I don't do that, but I do produce content. And I would love if each of these views, like each of the videos got lots of views, but so far that hasn't been the case, but I still enjoy making this kind of content. So I will continue to do it. It's my style of weaving in extemporaneous thoughts, just talking, with reading the material itself. So with that said, I want to, take this opportunity to talk about Nietzsche, to deconstruct him, to figure him out, to see what he was saying that was wise versus what he was saying that could be ignored. And I don't want to talk to myself about it. I want to produce it in this way and then look at it later. And so that's why I'm doing it this way. I hope that makes sense. With that said, let's get into the content. Today, it's going to be Zarathustra's speeches on the three metamorphoses. And this is a big deal. This section is important. We'll talk about it after I read it. Of three metamorphoses of the spirit, I tell you, how the spirit became a camel, and the camel a lion, and the lion, finally, a child. There is much that is difficult for the spirit, the strong, reverent spirit that would bear much, but the difficult and the most difficult are what its strength demands. What is difficult? Asked the spirit that would bear much, and kneels down like a camel wanting to be well loaded. What is most difficult, O heroes? Asks the spirit that would bear much, that I may take it upon myself and exult in my strength. Is it not humbling oneself to wound one's haughtiness, letting one's folly shine to mock one's wisdom? Or is it this, parting from our cause when it triumphs, climbing high mountains to tempt the tempter? Or is it this, feeding on the acorns and grass of knowledge, and, for the sake of truth, suffering hunger in one's soul? Or is it this, being sick and sending home the comforters and making friends with the deaf, who never hear what you want? Or is it this, stepping into filthy waters when they are the waters of truth, and not repulsing cold frogs and hot toads? Or is it this, loving those who despise us and offering a hand to the ghost that would frighten us? All these most difficult things the spirit that would bear much takes upon itself, like the camel that, burdened, speeds into the desert. Thus the spirit speeds into its desert. In the loneliest desert, however, the second metamorphosis occurs. Here the spirit becomes a lion who would conquer his freedom and be master in his own desert. Here he seeks out his last master. He wants to fight him and his last god. For ultimate victory, he he wants to fight with the great dragon. Who is the great dragon, whom the spirit will no longer call Lord and God? Thou shalt is the name of the great dragon, but the spirit of the lion says, I will. Thou shalt lies in his way, sparkling like gold, an animal covered with scales, and on every scale shines a golden thou shalt. Values, thousands of years old, shine on these scales, and thus speaks the mightiest of all dragons. All value of all things shines on me. All value has long been created, and I am all created value. Verily, there shall be no more I will. Thus speaks the dragon. My brothers, why is there a need in the spirit for the lion? Why is not the beast of burden, which renounces and is reverent, enough? To create new values, that even the lion cannot do, but the creation of freedom for oneself, for new creation, that is within the power of the lion. The creation of freedom for oneself and a sacred no, even to duty. For that, my brothers, the lion is needed. To assume the right to new values, that is the most terrifying assumption for a reverent spirit that would bear much. Verily, to him it is preying, and a matter for a beast of prey. He once loved thou shalt as most sacred. Now he must find illusion and caprice, even in the most sacred. Caprice. It's like an odd word. I don't know that word very well. He must find illusion and caprice, even in the most sacred. That freedom from his love may become his prey. The lion is needed for such prey. But say, my brothers, what can the child do that even the lion could not do? Why must the preying lion still become a child? The child is innocence and forgetting, a new beginning, a game, a self-propelled wheel, a first movement, a sacred yes. For the game of creation, my brothers, a sacred yes is needed. The spirit now wills his own will, and he who had been lost to the world now conquers his own world. Of three metamorphoses of the spirit I have told you, how the spirit became a camel, and the camel a lion, and the lion finally a child. Thus spoke Zarathustra, and at that time he sojourned in the town that is called the Motley Cow. Okay, so in that section, he talks about the loneliest desert, and your spirit is like a camel. And so you have to take on as much load as you possibly can. So bear everything. Go into the desert and collect as many problems or issues, carry as much as you can. And then when you're in the desert, go to find the greatest dragon that you can find, and on each of the scales there'll be values with what has been, thou shalt on each of the scales, and you as the lion, you have to convert from, your spirit needs to change from a camel into a lion, and the lion needs to defy the dragon and say no, and then give a sacred yes. And then you need to forget all of this and create new values like a child. And so that's where your spirit needs to change into three different modes, and that is the way forward. So it's very interesting that Nietzsche talks about all this stuff, but he doesn't believe in the soul. So he does believe in the spirit, which is like the moving force within humans, but he does not believe in the soul, which is like, the perfect sphere of white brilliance that's within each person, according to the Plato and the Greek tradition and Socrates. And so Nietzsche was against that. He was anti-Platonism. Okay, the next section is called On the Teachers of Virtue. A sage was praised to Zarathustra for knowing how to speak well of sleep and of virtue. He was said to be honored and rewarded highly for this, and all the youths were said to be sitting at his feet. To him Zarathustra went, and he sat at his feet with all the youths, and thus spoke the sage, "Honor sleep and be bashful for it, the first of all, and avoid all who sleep badly and stay awake at night. Even the thief is bashful before sleep. He always steals silently through the night. Shameless, however, is the watchman of the night. Shamelessly he carries his horn. Sleeping is no mean art. For its sake one must stay awake all day. 10 times a day you must overcome yourself. That makes you good and tired, and it is opium for the soul. 10 times you must reconcile yourself again with yourself. For overcoming is bitterness, and the unreconciled sleep badly. 10 truths a day you must find, else you will still be seeking truth by night, and your soul will remain hungry. 10 times a day you must laugh and be cheerful, else you will be disturbed at night by your stomach, this father of gloom. Few know it, but one must have all the virtues to sleep well. Shall I bear false witness? Shall I commit adultery? Shall I covet my neighbor's maid? All that would go ill with good sleep. And even if one has all the virtues, there is one further thing one must know: to send even the virtues to sleep at the right time, lest they quarrel with each other, the fair little women, about you, child of misfortune. Peace with God and the neighbor. That is what good sleep demands, and peace even with the neighbor's devil, else he will haunt you at night. Honor the magistrates and obey them, even the crooked magistrates. Good sleep demands it. Is it my fault that power likes to walk on crooked legs? I shall call him the best shepherd who leads his sheep to the greenest pasture. That goes well with good sleep. I do not want many honors or great jewels. That inflames the spleen. But one sleeps badly without a good name and a little jewel. A little company is more welcome to me than evil company. But they must go and come at the right time. That goes well with good sleep. Much too do I like the poor in spirit. They promote sleep. Blessed are they, especially if one always tells them that they are right. Thus passes the day of the virtuous. And when night comes, I guard well against calling sleep. For sleep, who is the master of the virtues, does not want to be called. Instead, I think about what I have done and thought during the day. Chewing the cud, I ask myself, patient as a cow, well, what were your 10 overcomings? And what were your 10 reconciliations, and the 10 truths, and the 10 laughters with which your heart edified itself? Weighing such matters and rocked by 40 thoughts, I am suddenly overcome by sleep, the uncalled, the master of the virtues. Sleep knocks at my eyes, they become heavy. Sleep touches my mouth, it stays open. Verily, on soft souls he comes to me, the dearest of thieves, and steals my thoughts. Stupid I stand, like this chair here, but not for long do I stand like this. Soon I lie. When Zarathustra heard the sage speak thus, he laughed in his heart, for an insight had come to him, and thus he spoke to his heart. This sage with his 40 thoughts is a fool, but I believe that he knows well how to sleep. Happy is he that even lives near this sage. Such sleep is contagious even through a thick wall. There is magic even in his chair, and it is not in vain that the youths sit before this preacher of virtue. His wisdom is to wake in order to sleep well, and verily if life had no sense and I had to choose nonsense, then I too should consider this the most sensible nonsense. Now I understand clearly what was once sought above all when teachers of virtue were sought. Good sleep was sought, and opiate virtues for all. For all these much praised sages who were teachers of virtue, wisdom was the sleep without dreams. They knew no better meaning of life. Today too, there may still be a few like this preacher of virtue, and not all so honest, but their time is up, and not for long will they stand like this. Soon they will lie. Blessed are the sleepy ones, for they shall soon drop off. Thus spoke Zarathustra. Okay, this section on the teachers of virtue, I'm not sure exactly what it means. Nietzsche is saying that, Zarathustra talks to himself, like he spoke to his own heart. So Zarathustra as a character has external thoughts that he tries to tell the townspeople. They don't listen to him, so then he turns internal. So this is part of Zarathustra's internal dialogue. And Zarathustra is talking about sleep. He's talking about good virtue leads to good sleep. But then during the day, you have to overcome 10 things a day. You have to laugh. You have to be cheerful. That's what stood out to me on this section is 10 times a day you have to laugh and be cheerful. Otherwise, you'll be disturbed at night by your stomach, the father of gloom. And so a big part of Nietzsche's philosophy is that you're biologically focused. Like, you have to eat well and you have to do a certain amount of virtue so that you could sleep well, so that you can wake up and do it all over again. And that's part of his whole philosophical great insight, is that he's like a modern person. Like, you don't have to worry about doing the wrong thing or being immoral because you're a biological being. But you have to have enough virtue that you could sleep well. Okay. I don't think it's... there's probably more to be said about that, but I just want to move on. Okay, the next section, this one's called On the Afterworldly. And then after that is On the Despisers of the Body. So this is all just prime Nietzsche stuff. I mean, this is exactly the stuff this is Thus Spoke Zarathustra. This is the kind of issues covered. Here we go. At one time, Zarathustra, too, cast his delusion beyond man, like all the afterworldly, the work of a suffering and tortured God. The world then seemed to me. A dream the world then seemed to me, the fiction of a God, colored smoke before the eyes of a dissatisfied deity. Good and evil and joy and pain and I and you, colored smoke this seemed to me before creative eyes. The creator wanted to look away from himself, so he created the world. Drunken joy it is for the sufferer to look away from his suffering and to lose himself. Drunken joy and loss of self, the world once seemed to me. This world, eternally imperfect, the image of an eternal contradiction, an imperfect image, a drunken joy for its imperfect creator. Thus the world once appeared to me. Thus I too once cast my delusion beyond man, like all the afterworldly, beyond man indeed. Alas, my brothers, this God whom I created was man-made and madness, like all gods. Man he was, and only a poor specimen of man and ego. Out of my own ashes and fire this ghost came to me, and verily it did not come to me from beyond. What happened, my brothers? I overcame myself, the sufferer. I carried my own ashes to the mountains. I invented a brighter flame for myself, And behold, then this ghost fled from me. Now it would be suffering for me and agony for the recovered to believe in such ghosts. Now it would be suffering for me and humiliation. Thus I speak to the afterworldly. It was suffering and incapacity that created all afterworlds, this and that brief madness of bliss, which is experienced only by those who suffer most deeply. Weariness that wants to reach the ultimate with one leap, with one fatal leap. A poor, ignorant weariness that does not want to want anymore. This created all gods and afterworlds. Believe me, my brothers, it was the body that despaired of the body and touched the ultimate walls with the fingers of a deluded spirit. Believe me, my brothers, it was the body that despaired of the earth and heard the belly of being speak to it. It wanted to crash through these ultimate walls with its head, and not only with its head, over there to that world. But that world is well concealed from humans. That dehumanized, inhuman world, which is a heavenly nothing, and the belly of being does not speak to humans at all, except as a human. Verily, all being is hard to prove and hard to induce to speak. Tell me, my brothers, is not the strangest of all things proved most nearly? Excuse me. Indeed, this ego and the ego's contradiction and confusion still speak most honestly of its being, this creating, willing, valuing ego, which is the measure and value of things. And this most honest being, the ego, speaks of the body and still wants the body, even when it poetizes and raves and flutters with broken wings. It learns to speak ever more honestly, this ego, and the more it learns, the more words and honors it finds for body and earth. A new pride my ego has taught me, and this I teach men, no longer to bury one's head in the sand of heavenly things, but to bear it freely on earthly head, which creates a meaning for the earth. A new will I teach men, to will this way which man has walked blindly, and to affirm it, and no longer to sneak away from it like the sick and decaying. It was the sick and decaying who despised body and earth and invented the heavenly realm and redemptive drops of blood. But they took even these sweet and gloomy poisons from body and earth. They wanted to escape their own misery, and the stars were too far for them. So they sighed. What would that there were heavenly ways to sneak into another state of being and happiness. Thus they invented their sneaky ruses and bloody potions. Ungrateful, these people deemed themselves transported from their bodies and this earth. But to whom did they owe the convulsions and raptures of their transport? To their bodies and this earth. Zarathustra is gentle with the sick. Verily, he is not angry with their kinds of comfort and ingratitude. May they become convalescents, men of overcoming, and create a higher body for themselves. Nor is Zarathustra angry with the convalescent who eyes his delusion tenderly and at midnight sneaks around the grave of his God, and even so his tears still betray sickness and a sick body to me. Many sick people have always been among the poetizers and God-cravers. Furiously they hate the lover of knowledge, and that youngest among the virtues, which is called honesty. They always look backward toward dark ages. Then, indeed, delusion and faith were another matter. The rage of reason was godlikeness, and doubt was sin. I know these godlike men all too well. They want one to have faith in them, and doubt to be sin. All too well I also know what it is in which they have most faith. Verily, it is not in afterworlds and redemptive drops of blood, but in the body, that they too have most faith. and their body is to them their thing in itself, but a sick thing it is to them, and gladly would they shed their skins. Therefore they listen to the preachers of death, and themselves preach afterworlds. Listen rather, my brothers, to the voice of the healthy body. That is a more honest and purer voice. More honestly and purely speaks the healthy body that is perfect and perpendicular, and it speaks of the meaning of the earth. Thus spoke Zarathustra. Yeah, so this section, if you couldn't tell, is very Nietzschean. It's like exactly, he says, don't stuff your head in the sand. Don't believe in heaven. That's out there. I want you to live here in this earth, in this body. That's Nietzsche's big point. Great. Okay, I think we can move on. On the despisers of the body. I want to speak to the despisers of the body. I would not have them learn and teach differently, but merely say farewell to their own bodies, and thus become silent. Body am I, and soul, thus speaks the child. And why should one not speak like children? But the awakened and knowing say, body am I entirely, and nothing else, and soul is only a word for something about the body. The body is a great reason, a plurality with one sense, a war and a peace, a herd and a shepherd. An instrument of your body is also your little reason, my brother, which you call spirit, a little instrument and toy of your great reason. I, you say, and you are proud of the word, but greater is that in which you do not wish to have faith. Your body and its reason, that does not say I, but does I. What the sense feels, what the spirit knows, never has its end in itself, but sense and spirit would persuade you that they are the end of all things. That is how vain they are. Instruments and toys are sense and spirit. Behind them still lies the self. The self also seeks with the eyes of the senses. It also listens with the ears of the spirit. Always the self listens and seeks. It compares, overpowers, conquers, destroys. It controls, and it is in control of the ego too. Behind your thoughts and feelings, my brother, there stands a mighty ruler, an unknown sage, whose name is self. In your body he dwells. He is your body. There is more reason in your body than in your best wisdom. And who knows why your body needs precisely your best wisdom? Yourself laughs at your ego and at its bold leaps. What are these leaps and flights of thought to me? It says to itself. A detour to my end. I am the leading strings of the ego and the prompter of its concepts. The self says to the ego, feel pain here. Then the ego suffers and thinks how it might suffer no more. And that is why it is made to think. The self says to the ego, feel pleasure here. Then the ego is pleased and thinks how it might often be pleased again. And that is why it is made to think. I want to speak to the despisers of the body. It is their respect that begets their contempt. What is it that created respect and contempt and worth and will? The creative self created respect and contempt. It created pleasure and pain. The creative body created the spirit as a hand for its will. Even in your folly and contempt, you despisers of the body, you serve yourself. I say unto you, yourself itself wants to die and turns away from life. It is no longer capable of what it would do above all else, to create beyond itself. That is what it would do above all else, that it is its fervent wish. But now it is too late for it to do this. So yourself wants to go under, O despisers of the body. Yourself wants to go under. and that is why you have become despisers of the body. For you are no longer able to create beyond yourselves, and that is why you are angry with life and the earth. An unconscious envy speaks out of the squint-eyed glance of your contempt. I shall not go your way, O despisers of the body. You are no bridge to the overman. Thus spoke Zarathustra. This section is important because Nietzsche is saying that you are your body. Nietzsche was anti-reason. So when Socrates and his buddies would sit around and think and talk about virtue, they were using reason. Nietzsche says that doesn't exist. And so that was the great insight from Plato, is men of good philosophical intent, of good moral character. What does that mean? Ask questions to other people in the marketplace, come up with answers, come up with what it could mean. You have Platonic dialogues. Nietzsche says there's more reason in your body, and your body is the thing that makes all of this happen. So don't let your thoughts go outside your body. Like, listen to your internal monologue. And, he says the people that despise their own body, which tend to be people in like priest class or academic, because there's, in Nietzsche's time in the 1800s, there were like academic people that, I mean, there still are today, but academic people that like didn't feel comfortable in their own bodies. Like they didn't dance. They didn't, they kind of like shunned it. That's sort of like a Puritanism. And so Nietzsche was like anti-Puritan. And then interestingly, he calls the body as a great reason. An instrument of your body is also your little reason, which you call your spirit. So he's, Nietzsche does this thing where Nietzsche introduces the terms and then he uses the term the way he means it. So the way Nietzsche says spirit is revealed in this chapter that we just read on the despisers of the body. So the people that like, Freud came up with libido. Carl Jung expanded upon that concept of the libido. And Nietzsche's talking about the libido here. He's talking about your body. And all those things, that spirit within you. The creative body created the spirit as a hand for its will. And this is all astounding because they didn't have like psychology outlined clearly at the time of this writing. So when Nietzsche talks about self versus ego, that was like a big deal back then. And then Freud expanded upon this, and then Carl Jung expanded upon all of that and developed like cognitive science and psychology. The next section is called On Enjoying and Suffering the Passions. My brother, if you have a virtue and she is your virtue, then you have her in common with nobody. To be sure, you want to call her by name and pet her. You want to pull her ear and have fun with her. And behold, now you have her name in common with the people and have become one of the people and herd with your virtue. You would do better to say, inexpressible and nameless is that which gives my soul agony and sweetness, and is even the hunger of my entrails. May your virtue be too exalted for the familiarity of names, and if you must speak of her, then do not be ashamed to stammer of her. Then speak and stammer, this is my good, this I love, it pleases me wholly. Thus alone do I want the good. I do not want it as divine law. I do not want it as human statute and need. It shall not be a signpost for me to over earths and paradises. It is an earthly virtue that I love. There is little prudence in it, and least of all the reason of all men. But this bird built its nest with me. Therefore I love and caress it. Now it dwells with me. Sting on its golden eggs. Then you shall stammer and praise in your virtue. Thus you shall stammer and praise your virtue. Once you suffered passions and called them evil, but now you have only your virtues left. They grew out of your passions. You commend your highest goal to the heart of these passions. Then they become your virtues and passions you enjoyed. And whether you came from the tribe of the choleric or of the voluptuous or of the fanatic or of the vengeful, in the end all your passions become virtues and all your devils angels. Once you had wild dogs in your cellar, but in the end they turned into birds and lovely singers. Out of your poisons you brewed your balsam. You milked your cow, melancholy. Now you drink the sweet milk of her udder, and nothing evil grows out of you henceforth, unless it be the evil that grows out of the fight among your virtues. My brother, if you are fortunate, you have only one virtue and no more. Then you will pass over the bridge more easily. It is a distinction to have many virtues, but a hard lot, and many have gone into the desert and taken their lives because they had wearied of being the battle and battlefield of virtues. My brother, are war and battle evil? But this evil is necessary. Necessary are the envy and mistrust and calumny among your virtues. Behold how each of your virtues covets what is highest. Each wants your whole spirit, that it might become her herald. Each wants your whole strength in wrath, hatred, and love. Each virtue is jealous of the others, and jealousy is a terrible thing. Virtues too can perish of jealousy. Surrounded by the flame of jealousy, one will, in the end, like the scorpion, turn one's poisonous sting against oneself. Alas, my brother, have you never yet seen a virtue deny and stab herself? Man is something that must be overcome, and therefore you shall love your virtues, for you will perish of them. Thus spoke Zarathustra. I really like this section. I like this section for a lot of reasons. The primary reason is Nietzsche talks about virtue. Virtue is for you, and if you have it, if you have, like, let's say your virtue is courage and you're a very courageous person, he says that's a good thing. It's inexpressible and it's nameless. It gives my soul agony and sweetness, and is even the hunger of my entrails. And then, may your virtue be too exalted for the familiarity of names. So if you must speak of her, so I just did that. I said, okay, let's call it courage. He says, don't be afraid to stammer of her. Then speak and stammer. This is my good. This I love. It pleases me wholly. So that, Nietzsche is playing around here, but he's saying that virtue is not something that a person should try to achieve with other people out there. Virtue is for you, but then your passions, which you commend your highest goal to the heart of the passions. So the passions you enjoyed, and then your virtue grew out of those passions. And nothing evil grows out of you henceforth, unless it's the evil that grows out of the fight amongst your virtues. So, that's Nietzsche's whole thing is, you're not evil. You're not a bad person. Each virtue is jealous of the others, and jealousy is a terrible thing. Yeah. Okay. So that's what he talks about for enjoying and suffering the passions. We can move on. On the pale criminal. You do not want to kill, O judges and sacrificers, until the animal has nodded. Behold, the pale criminal has nodded. Out of his eyes speaks the great contempt. My ego is something that shall be overcome. My ego is to me the great contempt of man. That is what his eyes say. That he judged himself. That was his highest moment. Do not let the sublime return to his baseness. There is no redemption for one who suffers so of himself, except a quick death. Your killing, O judges, shall be pity and not revenge. And as you kill, be sure that you yourselves justify life. It is not enough to make your peace with the man you kill. Your sadness shall be love of the overman. Thus you shall justify your living on. Enemy you shall say, but not villain. Sick you shall say, but not scoundrel. Fool you shall say, but not sinner. And you, red judge, if you were to tell out loud all that you have already done in thought, everyone would cry, away with this filth and this poisonous worm. But thought is one thing, the deed is another, and the image of the deed is still another. The wheel of causality does not roll between them. An image made this pale man pale. He was equal to his deed when he did it, but he could not bear its image after it was done. Now he always saw himself as the doer of one deed. Madness I call this. The exception now became the essence for him. A chalk streak stops a hen. The stroke that he himself struck stopped his poor reason. Madness after the deed I call this. Listen, O judges, there is yet another madness that comes before the deed. Alas, you have not yet crept deep enough into this soul. Thus speaks the red judge. Why did this criminal murder? He wanted to rob. But I say unto you, his soul wanted blood, not robbery. He thirsted after the bliss of the knife. His poor reason, however, did not comprehend this madness and persuaded him. What matters blood? It asked. Don't you want at least to commit a robbery with it, to take revenge? And he listened to his poor reason. Its speech lay upon him like lead. So he robbed when he murdered. He did not want to be ashamed of his madness. And now the lead of his guilt lies upon him. And again his poor reason is so stiff, so paralyzed, so heavy. If only he could shake his head, then his burden would roll off. But who could shake his head? What is this man? A heap of diseases which, through his spirit, reach out into the world. There they want to catch their prey. What is this man? A ball of wild snakes, which rarely enjoy rest from each other. So they go forth singly and seek prey in the world. Behold this poor body, what it suffered and coveted, this poor soul interpreted for itself. It interpreted it as murderous lust and greed for the bliss of the knife. Those who become sick today are overcome by that evil which is evil today. They want to hurt with that which hurts them. But there have been other ages and another evil and good. Once doubt was evil and the will to self. Then the self became heretics or witches. As heretics or witches they suffered and wanted to inflict suffering. But your ears do not want to accept this. It harms your good people, you say to me. But what people? But what matter your good people to me? Much about your good people nauseates me, and verily it is not their evil. Indeed, I wish they had a madness of which they might perish like this pale criminal. Verily, I wish their madness were called truth or loyalty or justice, but they have their virtue in order to live long and in wretched contentment. I am a railing by the torrent. Let those who can grasp me. Your crutch, however, I am not. Thus spoke Zarathustra. The pale criminal represents an individual consumed by unconscious guilt and a failure to sublimate their violent desires. They commit crimes out of weakness rather than malice, becoming pale because they cannot bear the weight of their own deeds. I think that is like Raskolnikov in Crime and Punishment, which is a great book if you haven't read it. The line that stuck out to me from this one was, but the thought is one thing, the deed is another, and the image of the deed still another. The wheel of causality does not roll between them. It's a very Nietzschean idea that doing the deed and the image of the deed, so thinking about doing something and then doing it, are two different things. And the wheel of causality does not roll between them. Nietzsche says those who become sick, usually when he says sick, he's talking about religious people, people that follow herd mentality. And let's see, what does he say? But there have been other ages and another evil and good. Once doubt was evil and the will to self, then the sick became heretics or witches. Nietzsche says, verily, I wish their madness were called truth or loyalty or justice, but they have their virtue. So he's just, that, I hope that has made sense. If you ever have any like specific questions, like please leave a comment and I will engage with it. I think that's fun. Okay, I'll keep going. On reading and writing. Of all that is written, I love only what a man has written with his blood. Write with blood, and you will experience that blood is spirit. It is not easily possible to understand the blood of another. I hate reading idlers. Whoever knows the reader will henceforth do nothing for the reader. Another century of readers, and the spirit itself will stink. That everyone may learn to read, in the long run corrupts not only writing, but also thinking. Once the spirit was God, then he became man, and now he even becomes rabble. Whoever writes in blood and aphorisms does not want to be read, but to be learned by heart. In the mountains, and the shortest way is from peak to peak. But for that, one must have long legs. Aphorisms should be peaks, and those who are addressed, tall and lofty. The air thin and pure, danger near, and the spirit full of gay sarcasm. These go well together. I want to have goblins around me, for I am courageous. Courage that puts ghosts to flight creates goblins for itself. Courage wants to laugh. I no longer feel as you do. This cloud which I see beneath me, this blackness and gravity at which I laugh, this is your thundercloud. You look up when you feel the need for elevation, and I look down because I am elevated. Who among you can laugh and be elevated at the same time? Whoever climbs the highest mountains laughs at all tragic plays and tragic seriousness. Brave, unconcerned, mocking, violent, thus wisdom wants us. She is a woman and always loves only a warrior. You say to me, life is hard to bear, but why would you have your pride in the morning and your resignation in the evening? Life is hard to bear, but do not act so tenderly. We are all of us fair beasts of burden, male and female asses. What do we have in common with the rosebud, which trembles because a drop of dew lies on it? True, we love life, not because we are used to living, but because we are used to loving. There is always some madness in love, but there is also always some reason in madness. And to me, too, as I am well disposed toward life, butterflies and soap bubbles and whatever among men is of their kind seem to know most about happiness. Seeing these light, foolish, delicate, mobile little souls flutter, that seduces Zarathustra to tears and songs. I would believe only in a God who could dance. And when I saw my devil, I found him serious, thorough, profound, and solemn. It was the spirit of gravity. Through him all things fall. Not by wrath does one kill, but by laughter. Come, let us kill the spirit of gravity. I have learned to walk ever since I let myself run. I have learned to fly ever since I do not want to be pushed before moving along. Now I am light. Now I fly. Now I see myself beneath myself. Now a God dances through me. Thus spoke Zarathustra. This is like a mind-blowing passage, especially the beginning. Let me see if I can tell you why. Nietzsche is critiquing written word. He says, of all that is written, I love only a man that is written with his blood. Write with blood, and you will experience that blood is spirit. So what he's saying is, like, he's saying you need to write with blood. That means really mean what you say. And it is not easily possible to understand the blood of another. I hate reading idlers. Whoever knows the reader will henceforth do nothing for the reader. Another century of readers and the spirit itself will stink. So that's just, it's like a critique of what I'm doing right now is I am reading his book and critiquing his words and thinking about his ideas. But Nietzsche is saying, yeah, that's bad. Don't do that. Like, because it's going to get distorted. Whoever knows the reader will henceforth do nothing for the reader. So he's saying you're not doing anything for me by reading my words 150 years later or whatever it is. And that's like mind blowing because it's like, I get what Nietzsche's saying. I get what he's saying. What do we do about that? And I don't know what to do. He's just outlined something it's a problem, right? So once the spirit was God, then he became man, and now he becomes rabble, which is just stuff being written down, and it doesn't matter years later. So, I mean, it's my critique of Nietzsche was going to be like, go through his words, and where I disagree with specific statements, like present that. And he's like, who cares? That's what Nietzsche would say. He'd be like, who cares if you take statements of mine and critique them 150 years after I die? Doesn't matter. It doesn't affect him when he wrote it, because when he wrote with blood. So he wrote with spirit. He is putting words on the page, and that's why he's so fun to read, because when he writes, he's really putting himself on the page. He's putting himself out there. It's very spirited. And then he mentions whoever writes in blood, which is what he's doing, and aphorisms, which are those short sentences that are like punchy. He does not want to be read, but he wants to be learned by heart. So he's literally saying to you, Nietzsche doesn't want you to read them. He's like, read it, don't read it, doesn't matter. The short sentences, like, put those up on the wall. Like the one I just said, the spirit was God, then becomes man, then becomes rabble. And I don't know what to do with that. I mean, that's like a mind-blowing, I've never even thought about that. I've read this 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, it's blowing my mind right now. What do we do about that? you know, I wanted to, you want to become immortal. You can't do it. So you read the greats because they were immortal from the past, right? And then I personally want to write, but Nietzsche's cautioning everyone, and this is how I'm taking it. You have to be very careful with what you write, and write with blood, because it won't matter 150 years from now. Someone will just read your work and, you know, they'll critique it, but at that point, so what? It's just words on a page. But the important part is the spirit in those words, like dancing off the page. Okay, interesting. This is what I love about Nietzsche. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this too. I'm going to keep going. On the tree, on the mountainside. Zarathustra's eye had noted that a youth avoided him, and one evening as he walked alone through the mountains surrounding the town which is called the Motley Cow, behold, on his walk he found this youth as he sat leaning against a tree, looking warily into the valley. Zarathustra gripped the tree under which the youth was sitting and spoke thus: "If I wanted to shake this tree with my hands, I should not be able to do it. But the wind, which we do not see, tortures and bends it in whatever direction it pleases. It is by invisible hands that we are bent and tortured worst." Then the youth got up in consternation and said, "I hear Zarathustra, and just now I was thinking of him." Zarathustra replied, "Why should that frighten you? But it is with man as it is with the tree. The more he aspires to the height and light, the more strongly do his roots strive earthward, downward, into the dark, the deep, into evil." "Yes, into evil," cried the youth. "How is it possible that you have discovered my soul?" Zarathustra smiled and said, "Some souls one will never discover unless one invents them first." "Yes, into evil," the youth cried once more. "You have spoken the truth, Zarathustra. I no longer trust myself since I aspire to the height, and nobody trusts me any more." "How did this happen?" "I changed too fast. My today refutes my yesterday. I often skip steps when I climb. No step forgives me that. When I am at the top, I always find myself alone. Nobody speaks to me. The frost of loneliness makes me shiver. What do I want up high? My contempt and my longing grow at the same time. The higher I climb, the more I despise the climber. What does he want up high? How ashamed I am of my climbing and stumbling. How I mock at my violent panting. How I hate the flyer. How weary I am up high." Here the youth stopped, and Zarathustra contemplated the tree beside which they stood, and spoke thus: "This tree stands lonely here in the mountains. It grew high above man and beast. And if it wanted to speak, it would have nobody who could understand it. So high has it grown. Now it waits and waits. For what is it waiting? It dwells too near the seat of the clouds. Surely it waits for the first lightning." When Zarathustra had said this, the youth cried with violent gestures, "Yes, Zarathustra, you are speaking the truth. I longed to go under when I aspired to the height, and you are lightning for which I waited. Behold, what am I, now that you have appeared among us? It is the envy of you that has destroyed me." Thus spoke the youth, and he wept bitterly. But Zarathustra put his arm around him and led him away. And when they had walked together for a while, Zarathustra began to speak thus: "It tears my heart better than your words tell it. Your eyes tell me of all your dangers. You are not yet free. You still search for freedom. You are worn from your search and overawake. You aspire to the free heights. Your soul thirsts for the stars. But your wicked instincts, too, thirst for freedom. Your wild dogs want freedom. They bark with joy in their cellar when your spirit plans to open all prisons. To me, you are still a prisoner who is plotting his freedom. Alas, in such prisoners, the soul becomes clever, but also deceitful and bad. And even the liberated spirit must still purify himself. Much prison and mustiness still remain in him. His eyes must still become pure. Indeed, I know your danger, but by my love and hope I beseech you, do not throw away your love and hope. You still feel noble, and the others, too, feel your nobility, though they bear you a grudge and send you evil glances. Know that the noble man stands in everybody's way. The noble man stands in the way of the good, too, and even if they call him one of the good, they thus want to do away with him. The noble man wants to create something new and a new virtue. The good wants the old, and that the old be preserved. But this is not the danger of the noble man, that he might become one of the good, but a churl, a mocker, a destroyer. Alas, I knew noble men who lost their highest hope. Then they slandered all high hopes. Then they lived impudently in brief pleasures, and barely cast their goals beyond the day. Spirit, too, is lust, so they said. Then the wings of their spirit broke, and now their spirit crawls about and soils what it gnaws. Once they thought of becoming heroes. Now they are voluptuaries. The hero is for them an offense and a fright. But by my love and hope I beseech you, do not throw away the hero in your soul. Hold holy your highest hope. Thus spoke Zarathustra. That was on the tree on the mountainside. And cool part about this section was if he wants to shake the tree, you can't do it. But the wind, which we can't see, bends it in whatever direction it pleases. So it is by invisible hands that we humans are bent and tortured worst. And then the more that man, it's like a tree, the more he wants to aspire to the height, the more strongly that his roots strive earthward, downward, into the dark, the deep, into evil. And then the youth cried out, into evil, how is it possible you've discovered my soul? And Zarathustra smiles and says, some souls one will never discover unless one invents them first. I know from other readings from Nietzsche that Nietzsche does not believe in the soul. So he's saying you've got to create your own version of the soul. So that's, again, Zarathustra is telling the youth some souls will never discover unless one invents them first. And there's many layers to this, but Nietzsche doesn't even believe in the soul, but he's using it as a literary device. Like that's why Thus Spoke is like a dream sequence, and Nietzsche is really communicating his philosophy and his ideas, but it's underneath so many layers of like metaphors and what Zarathustra's doing, walking around, because we don't even know where Zarathustra is right now. It's not really a narrative structure, but it's designed to not be a narrative structure in that way. So, I mean, it makes it a difficult book to parse through, but we're having fun with it, right? You're getting all of this. I think we're doing well on it. I could be just talking to myself here, but I'm having fun. I mean, this is what I like to do. Okay. Anything else we should discuss? I think the tree analogy is really just amazing. The tree stands lonely in the mountains, high above man and beast. Yeah. Okay. On the preachers of death. Let's see, is there anything else? Oh, one last thought on this is you feel nobility. He says, don't. I knew noble men who lost their highest hope, and then the wings of their spirit broke. So he's saying, don't do that. Like, do not throw away the hero in your soul. That's one of the last lines. Hold holy your highest hope. So there we go. Okay, on the preachers of death. There are preachers of death, and the earth is full of those to whom one must preach renunciation of life. The earth is full of the superfluous. Life is spoiled by the all too many. May they be lured from this life with the eternal life. Yellow the preachers of death wear, or black, but I want to show them to you in still other colors. These are the terrible ones who carry around within themselves the beasts of prey, and have no choice but lust or self-laceration. And even their lust is still self-laceration. They have not even become human beings yet, these terrible ones. Let them preach renunciation of life and pass away themselves. There are those with consumption of the soul. Hardly are they born when they begin to die and to long for doctrines of weariness and renunciation. They would like to be dead, and we should welcome their wish. Let us beware of waking the dead and disturbing these living coffins. They encounter a sick man or an old man or a corpse, and immediately they say, life is refuted. But only they themselves are refuted, their eyes, which see only this face of existence, shrouded in thick melancholy and eager for the little accidents that bring death. Thus they wait with clenched teeth, or they reach for sweets while mocking their own childishness. They clutch the straw of their life and mock that they still clutch a straw. Their wisdom says, a fool who stays alive, but such fools are we. And this is surely the most foolish thing about life. Life is only suffering, others say, and do not lie. See to it, then, that you cease. See to it, then, that the life which is only suffering ceases. And let this be the doctrine of your virtue. Thou shalt kill thyself. Thou shalt steal away. Lust is sin, says one group that preaches death. Let us step aside and beget no children. Giving birth is troublesome, says another group. Why go on giving birth? One bears only unfortunates. And they too are preachers of death. Pity is needed, says the third group. Take from me what I have. Take from me what I am. Life will bind me that much less. If they were full of pity through and through, they would make life insufferable for their neighbors. To be evil, that would be their real goodness. But they want to get out of life. What do they care that with their chains and presents they bind others still more tightly? And you too, for whom life is furious, work and unrest. Are you not very wary of life? Are you not very ripe for the preaching of death? All of you to whom furious work is dear, and whatever is fast, new, and strange, you find it hard to bear yourselves. Your industry is escape and the will to forget yourselves. If you believed more in life, you would fling yourselves less to the moment. But you do not have contents enough in yourselves for waiting, and not even for idleness. Everywhere the voice of those who preach death is heard, and the earth is full of those to whom one must preach death, or eternal life. That is the same to me, if only they pass away quickly. Thus spoke Zarathustra. So in this section, when Nietzsche's saying the preachers of death, he is talking about It could be like Buddhists, like people that are ascetics, that like sit with the yellow robes and renounce life. He thinks they're just preaching about death. So basically, they're not living. And he also critiques like Christians or people like religious people in India. So he's talking about religious people as preachers of death. And the reason why is because they are preaching about an afterlife, which he doesn't believe in. So he says instead, it's better to embrace life right here, right now, and not, Nietzsche would say the opposite of a good idea is to renounce life and to, one day, years ago, I wanted to be a monk. And I'm glad I found Nietzsche now because it gives me a framework for being happy to reject being a monk, because I've chosen a life path. I'm married, I have children, and I'm not a monk. So that means different things. But what doesn't mean? Monks, the critique here is the monks are preachers of death. Okay, let's keep going.